order. And Vice Mayor Carrillo will be late. Rob Taylor, for the record, is not here today. He is out of town, but note that all committee members are present. We'll now go into, and self-introduction, just very known for the record, please. Self-introductions.
Okay. Hello, my name is Fernando Serrano. I'm here with Comisión Honorífica today.
Teresa de la Rosa, Comisión Honorífica President.
Elva Beltran, Comisión Honorífica Treasurer.
Thank you very much. We're now going to oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the audit committee on any scheduled matter unless additional time is authorized by the committee. All commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual and no more than 15 minutes total. No public comments here. Do we have anyone on virtually for public comment?
No, yeah.
Okay, then we will now move on to scheduled matters. And before we go into scheduled matters, I'm going to ask legal counsel if we can change the order of 3 and 2 and move commission since they are present, and we'll move.
Sure, with the consensus of the other committee members, I don't have a problem with that.
Is that okay with the committee? Okay. Then we'll go into the approval of the draft minutes of March 29th. Has everybody had time to look at them? Do we have a
I'll
motion?
make the motion.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Signify approval by saying aye. Aye. Okay, passes unanimous. We will now move 2 and 3. We'll just reverse them and we'll be going into the review of the Comisión Honorífica Mexicana Americana Inc. agreement.
Easier to say that one.
I'm reading it under here. I'm reading it under here, and who will take that one on?
Well, I'll introduce
Please.
it. And I appreciate the representation here today.
Me too.
So we met last week, in consideration, I'll let them, and invited them here to,
Yes.
kind of provide a personal introduction to it, but essentially looking at some, capital improvements that are a significant cost, primarily, HVAC replacement, as well as there's a flooring that needs to be redone, but primarily and most important need right now is an HVAC replacement of the major unit, and it has an estimated cost. This isn't quoted yet, but estimated cost at least $35,000. And so in their consideration of that improvement, looking at potential financing of that, which would probably be in a 30-year term, which is longer than 20 years, or sorry, 20-year term. We were talking 30-year terms earlier. So 20-year term, which is a longer duration than currently exists in the license, which right now I think that's 4 years with a 15-year option. So the interest that was expressed was looking at revising the agreement to change the term, essentially to provide some assurance of a 20-year term, which would coincide with financing the value.
Okay,
And produce a memorandum of this.
I saw the memorandum. I saw the summary here. That's what I was looking at right now.
With that, I guess
We'll turn it over.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have to get up?
No.
No?
No. You can if you want to.
It's been a long day. Yeah. I'm gonna take liberty of reading what I wrote. I don't want to forget any of the points that I want to bring to the committee. On behalf of Comisión Honorífica Board of Directors, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you and introduce our board members, including Dr. Fernando Serrano, which is our historian, Elva Beltran, Treasurer Roberto de la Rosa, Vice President, who is unable to be here, he's in the Reino today, and I, Teresa de la Rosa, Board President. The reason for appearance today is as follows. Last week, as Mr. Lawley said, we met with him and Donnie Moore to request consideration of extending our lease of a building located at 466 Hispana. The property is now known as Chema Community Center. Said lease is due to expire on 2027. The community center has supported with its culture, art, educational, family, community relief center, boarding pool, and more. Although Chema has made an extraordinary effort to increase its dedicated building fund, we suffer the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic where we were forced to shut down our activities for nearly 3 years. We were unable to find governmental COVID-19 relief funds for our needs. Our situation in the building's age became a compound operational fiscal situation for us because our air conditioning equipment, just like Mr. said, natural gas supply, damaged floor, and flooding forced us to consume much of our building fund reserve for the immediate and necessary repairs. At the present time, we find it necessary to replace the center's air conditioning unit, approximately $25,000, and the parquet floor, approximately $20,000, plus 3 replacement and landscaping, approximately $3,000. Is a piece of information because 3 of the trees that were in the property were deceased. We have to cut them down, and that cost us $5,000. It was a huge expense. Now, according to the information we received from the city, we have to replace the trees. We have to replant some trees, and it's gonna cost us at least $3,000. So, our chairman board is seriously considering requesting an equity loan of $48,000 to $50,000 on the property we own on this date in Plano. Such loan, if granted, will be used to make the Plano Community Center fully operational for our community for many years to come. It is our board of directors' decision that in order to invest this amount of money and amortize it to 20 to 25 years, we need for our city lease to be equal to such investment. We respectfully urge this audit committee to consider a request for a 20 to 25-year lease. Once again, thank you for this opportunity, and we welcome your questions. And I'm going to give you a copy of what we wrote, just in case. Thank you.
Lots of,
I think Fernando will appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
I thank you very much for that.
You're done.
It's like this, please.
Okay, that's
Do
it.
you read it?
Anything, like I said, if you have any questions, we'll be more than glad to answer them. Elba, the money lady, has a lot of information. He's a historian, and he knows a lot of the things that are going on, so. Any questions will be welcome.
I don't have any problem.
I don't
making
have a
that.
problem. You know, one of the things that I want to say, we want Commission to be successful. We want to work with you. We want to be able to help and nourish the community with the building, and if there's something that we can help with as far as, you know, making it successful. You've pretty much have already met with the city manager, you've met with Donnie, and I'm certain that the outcome at that meeting was that we would bring it here. We have our legal representative. I don't have a problem with the year request and
Speaking as a committee member, I mean, they're responsible for all the repairs.
exactly.
So I don't, to me, I don't see why that we can't. I mean, obviously, we only make recommendations to the city council, but I don't have a problem putting an amendment in to make that recommendation to the council.
And when we met just, you're right, on the cannabis, as an eligible nonprofit, I imagine that there'd be a process coming in this next handful of months.
Right, could also
being brought,
potentially help with
because of the
funding.
community benefit
Yeah.
grants, which the city council, there's gonna be a recommendation coming to city council from the ad hoc committee about, but it's something in the magnitude of 60,000 minimum, correct? So, from the 2 that we have, so there may be some, potential funding. I can't speak for the council and the process and that sort of thing, but, did allude that, one of the purposes of that funding was to support nonprofits in the community, especially
great.
those serving downtown and the culture and history and arts.
Mhm.
Wow.
And it's the, and the request again will be taken to the full council.
Right.
And we will, you know, as an audit committee, you've already gone through the process of meeting and outlining, and you brought it here to this committee, and I just want to say we want you to be successful.
And I thank you for that. I think we have really made an extraordinary effort
Mhm.
to continue with the events. Because,
Yeah.
the community it's already used to it. They appreciate what we do. So we want to be able to continue to do that. And I'll be honest with you, right now, it's almost impossible to hold any events because of the heat.
Oh, of course.
It's crazy. I was just there about,
We just walked from
30
a,
minutes.
a thing over here on Main Street to a pit over here. I was like, excuse me, I need all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
yes. If my fellow board members, when I could say something else, I'll be more than
absolutely.
happy to.
The only thing I could think too is that given that if we go with a longer term, we may want to have some sort of contingent. I mean, you guys of all the organizations, probably the least, you guys are probably the least have to end up worrying about this, but just in general, since we haven't been doing long term, we've been kind of shortening them. We probably ought to have some contingency just in case something happens where you're not there anymore, because what we don't want is a building that's not being utilized and the city would have to worry about that. Like I said, I think that of all organizations, that chance is probably pretty minimal with you of all of them. But because you guys have already demonstrated, you've been here a long time and you continuously hold events. We have other
I
organizations.
may
that
not be
about that.
here.
But-
by the end of the
No, I know. Well, that's the
But
thing.
we have young members coming along.
I know. Well, sorry, the reason I have to bring that up is that I probably won't be here either, like in 20 years.
That's what I keep saying, we can go here, but that doesn't mean I may be here.
Yeah, so we may want to put something in there just so that we can ensure something reasonable.
Sure.
So just, I'll think about that a little bit, try to come up with something that makes sense, in case the organization were to, end up not being functional anymore down the line. Let's hope, cross our fingers that that's never an issue, but and only reason why I bring that up is really not so much, like I said, because of you, but because whatever we do for you with the long term, we're probably going to need to think about if somebody else asks us for a long term.
Yeah.
Barn Theater is actually a good one, although theirs is still, is it shorter?
No, it was redone.
Yeah.
And I shared that it was kind of a parallel story where
Yeah.
they initially had moved, because they had a benefactor that wanted to
Mhm.
provide them something for capital improvements and, I don't know all of the details on the other side, but we did redo the agreement.
And I think we did put something in there. What we have in there is your basic lease where you're not suffering to commit waste and all that, which basically is very legal, easy language for, you're
Yeah.
gonna keep utilizing the building. It's not gonna just kind of sit there and languish. So that may be all we need. And we can probably do some updating too, because I have been trying to update these as we get to them. We were waiting on you guys since we knew you had a few more years on yours, but we can go ahead and add some of our standard language in it. And that would also help, especially since we're gonna do a long term.
Yeah, and
So it's good.
to the attorneys in the room, I appreciate it. So as they talked about a different building being used as the equity for the financing.
Yes.
Yes.
That was different than, if you might remember, we did it in Park Theater,
Mhm.
because they had done financing and there was, I think, a mechanics lien, wasn't there, on the building?
They didn't have a mechanics lien. I think they just had there was an outstanding debt,
Oh,
right?
That's right.
It was a.
There was.
So I just wanted to call attention that they had.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually, that's a good point though. Since we're going to do a long term, let's use like I just did with Kiwanis, let's update the agreement. And get that done while we're at it. And so that you guys can basically restart, have your agreement, have it be long term in this case. Presuming the council, we don't again, they'll go to it, but we would make a recommendation that it be approved.
From the audit committee to the full
Yeah.
council to
Yeah.
approve. Is that what-
It
Yeah.
will be brought, once she looks at it, once she revises and and you guys.
We'll
come back
circulate it.
and forth.
We'll do that. So I'll make the
And-
changes, circulate it to you guys. Presuming you're good with it. I don't know if it needs to come back to audit committee. I
That's
don't know.
what, if they're good with it.
Yeah,
And you have all those, and we can go from there.
and then take it to council.
Okay.
Could
Okay, to me.
be, could be as early
And if there's
as-
major discussion points, then we can
Then
always bring it back for another meeting.
And just want to mention real quick, because you mentioned about the duration of the organization. I understand that a lot of nonprofits come and go, and that happens. But Comisión Honorífica has been here since
course.
nineteen
You guys,
twenty-seven.
I know, you guys have been there. Like I said,
Well, that's-
I don't even really want to bring it up with you guys, but I think that like I said, whatever we do, we'll do it for everybody. I don't think you're gonna have any problem meeting the requirements, so it'll be a moot point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
this is centennial.
yes.
It
it is
is.
coming up. So it'll be nice to celebrate with nice air conditioner and bring the community in there.
The summer is really hard on Comisión because our electric bill at the center comes over $1,000. That's a
Yeah.
lot compared to 350 or 400. So June, July, August, very heavy months for us. We just got a bill for pack at our warehouse on Plano and Dave. A bill of $644, something like that. And I said, what?
But
So
that's for
Fred,
water.
They're
Fred,
so
Fred
high.
works for the city, so he does the calculations. He's like, this is 4,188 gallons being used every day at the warehouse.
No,
No way.
it's open only 4 hours a
So
day.
how do we justify it to the meter counter person, you know? That's just one thing we have to
Yeah.
pay or talk to Pac about it or something, so it's like, oh, it never finishes.
So are you good with the conversation here?
I'm great.
Yes.
As far as
Yes.
I'm concerned,
Thank
this
you.
is
Well, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Oh,
thank you for inviting.
Thank you.
Listening
Yeah,
to
you
our
guys.
Do we want to take an action to make the recommendation on the extension and the updating of it?
Yes,
And
and
then that way we don't necessarily have to come back here.
Hmm.
I will
Um,
make that recommendation that you just said.
okay, so
To the 25-year term.
Yes.
25-year term and update. That's your motion, Mayor.
Yes, and who's second?
Okay, Maria
Maria will
seconds.
second that. No further discussion. Signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you guys so much.
I know.
That made me historical event.
Every time I see her, I'm like, she's still here, yes, yes.
Yes.
You're the brains behind all this financial stuff, you know?
Thank
Are
you.
you
Thank you so much.
Very much for being here. It was.
Well, I wish everything was like this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, it's good seeing you guys. And your daddy. Thank you, Donna, so much. Maria, you take care. Always good to see you. Thank you, Miss Martha.
You're welcome.
Our mayor.
Bye, Donnie.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
John, here, always, thank you so much. You take care of yourself.
Definitely take care of yourself.
I will.
We will, we'll have to take it.
We'll have to have a beverage. Not to be that.
Thank you, all of you guys.
Okay, we're
Good to see you
good.
guys.
Thank you.
We're all set up.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, now we'll go on into the review of the draft of the Kiwanis Club license agreement, and we have someone on virtually as well.
I'm here, Bert Martinez Yarbrough.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if you wanted me to start since I took the agreement that we did for,
There's somebody else. Just to make sure that there's no representative from the beginning. Hey, Bert, this is Fernando. Are you expecting someone else to be in on this call as well? Or on the Zoom? Is it fine?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
There's another individual on the Zoom, but I haven't permitted them in. Are they supposed
well,
to?
it's
be
open
in
meeting.
here?
We should let them in.
Oh,
Fernando.
well, they're on the thing. I just wasn't sure.
Oh, as a panelist. I see what you're saying.
But they can hear us but they can't,
Okay.
they won't be able to talk. I'll go ahead and bring them in. I'm not sure if.
I did go ahead and offer the Zoom to other members, but nobody
Okay.
actually got back to me to let me know if they were gonna be able to attend.
Okay, it looks like they declined the offer, so you can go ahead and.
After all that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I took the template we had already done for the other agreements that we've been moving through and updated the Kiwanis agreement accordingly. So that's and along with the comments that were made at the last meeting. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So so if you guys are just looking at it, I described the property. I utilized the same, I said it would be used, I took verbatim, basically with the language that was in the older agreement as far as the purpose. For Kiwanis sponsored youth organization and a meeting place for them, and then also the potential for events. With the idea though, that if they were to do events, they would need portable restrooms or they would need to improve the restrooms because we noted that. I did add the language that Javier had recommended with regard to the fact that, you know, if it ever hasn't had a CASP, like a formal ADA CASP inspection. And so that if there were to be changes, that we wouldn't be, we would not automatically be responsible for those, that those would be presumed to be the licensee's responsibility. So there's that, and if that were to ever happen. At this point, though, that isn't needed, but it's just something that's out there. So, I think otherwise, it's basically the same language. It talks about the use, like I said, the use of the premises. It talks about the term that I've got a 5-year term in there.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Did you?
I was gonna ask. Possessory interest. Because I know.
Oh, is there no possessory interest tax? I need to put that in.
Okay.
That's my bad.
I'm not sure. I noticed it wasn't on the.
Let me see if it's, well, the Chema one may need, let me see if this one, I thought I'd added it in it.
I think it's in here.
It might be in here.
I just haven't.
Let me see. That's okay. And unfortunately, I did this like a week ago, which is for me like years now. I don't remember what I did. So hold on.
It's number 19.
Oh, okay, good. Yes, so that's in there. I'm trying to standardize these so that, because this one was frustrating since it was such an old form, we didn't even have it in Word. So it was easier for me to utilize anyways, the new one, and then just take the old one and put in what needed to be in.
Okay.
So, see, the maintenance is in there, same as before. I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. Yeah, it's all of our standard clauses. But like I said, with the noted and stuff that we had pulled from the last couple meetings. I don't know if Kiwanis has any questions.
Did you have any questions, Bert?
So we did have a meeting with the board, and it's a 100-year-old building, and we know it's older. It needs to be updated. We have used it as we can. We do still have meetings. The last one was in May. And right now, again, with COVID, the same as Comisión, that kind of took us down to where we couldn't invite like the Girl Scouts that were coming in or the college that was coming in. It's kind of been, I don't want to say revamped, but being different things are in there to where it isn't functional for them. We still have the Girl Scouts that come in and do stuff in the yard. They plant stuff, they plant trees. They have like little day camps. That's why we try to keep the yard done. One of the things we talked about was if the city should offer another building, depending on what the cost of all the repairs would be. What would we do with that building? How the city would get rid of the building, because it's been in the city of Porterville. Kiwanis has been in there since 1947. The building itself has been there since 1975. So kind of grown fond of it, but we do understand that it does need to change, needs to be upgraded. So we're going to try what we can to do, but we're, limited fund wise as well.
Any comment? Hi, Vice Mayor.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
No.
Marie, did you have any questions on this?
He just asked if there was a fee attached to it. I said no.
Okay.
Is that the customary dollar? Or is there, it's actually,
Usually we have. or-
Yeah, we've done $1, but it's a license and not a lease, and so I don't know that we necessarily
Yes, sir.
have
Needs to be the
to.
case.
Semantics, huh? I know, semantics, right?
Okay, no, I just didn't know if that was.
Yeah, and it is, and there, we're not, and I will say this, there is flexibility here. I know there was, because it's possible Kiwanis may want to look at something, if they were to say Kiwanis decides they want to make substantial improvements and they need to finance. Like we just talked about, the whole point, I mean, we would, since they are responsible for, I mean, we are allowing use of this building that has clearly, we're not charging for it because we know, I mean, it is what it is, right? You're just getting the ability to utilize space that the city has, albeit space that isn't necessarily that is probably in need of improvements. We understand that. So, and our typical way of dealing with this is to allow for the organizations that use them to make change or to make improvements. But the city is not responsible for making improvements, to those specific organizations. So that's kind of how we've had it. But like I said, this particular term is flexible. It allows for changes, of course, and it is short term, but for now, but we could always, the council can always look at longer or something else different if they do decide they want to make substantial improvements and want to try to bite the bullet, so to speak, and take on that risk. So.
So it would be, the term and the flexibility.
The term is 5 years right now, but I think it allows, but it is a revocable lease because this building is definitely in flux more. We know that it's old. They may want to change. We may want to change. We understand that. This one, given this just the special circumstances with regard to this building and where it's located. So
Julia, I had
the ability to do that.
She's first.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I had taken a quick cruise on it and there was a particular inspection that had not been done. Should we want to have that inspection done? That would be our cost, or would that be something the city would do?
If you wanted it, you would be responsible for the cost. That's how it's worded currently right now. I don't think you're going to want it because it's kind of the information that you don't really want to necessarily be aware of, because the issue we have is that we know that there are issues with ADA compliance, right? We already spotted a few. That's why there's a specific provision in there with regard to restrooms, and you could not hold a large event in there with the current restrooms the way they are. And we know that. And so that's actually set forth, specifically in the agreement. But if somebody were to come in or demand it or say it needs to happen, then we would probably need to do that, and we'd be looking at potentially extensive improvements. Basically, what we're saying here is it has certain limited capabilities now, but if you're needing it for wide access to the public, then there's going to be different requirements. That was what Javier had said at the prior meetings, our public works director or our city projects director. So it depends, really the question is it appropriate for use? It depends on what that use is. And if somebody wants to demand a very formalized, we're not requiring that right now. We're not requiring that you do that right now. But if you were to want to do that, it's likely you're going to find out very, quickly what the true limitations are on the building. And you may not want to know that information, right? That's because it could potentially say, you could then be stuck saying, okay, we're not gonna be able to use it at all and have to find another place.
Right. Okay.
So
I get that.
That's the issue. Does that make sense? So that's,
Yes, it does.
it's legal language, it has to be required. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll be looking in the corners and that kind of thing. But okay.
That answer your question, Bert?
Yes, it did.
Okay. So where do we go from here?
Well, if the committee is good with this, we can go ahead and make a motion to recommend this particular agreement to the city council for approval.
I am good with it.
If somebody would like to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
And I will second that. Oh, you wanted to say, let me rescind that second so that.
We'll let Maria second it. I'm hitting Maria.
All right, no further discussion, signify by saying aye.
So I do have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Brown Act with participation by the vice mayor. I know.
So the vice mayor can technically not vote on it because we're back to the traditional rules
In person,
of in-person, unless we had noticed it in advance.
That's why I
Yep.
just
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yep, so
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Kelly. That's all right.
No,
We still
that's
got your.
okay. I'm sorry for,
No, I just.
I didn't even realize that. Okay.
Okay,
I forget too.
we have a quorum.
Yes,
And so with that, we have a motion and a second, signify your approval by saying aye.
aye.
Okay, anything for, future agenda under other matters, future agenda items, we need to schedule the next meeting.
So, senior livestock fair.
Oh,
will be the next
okay.
one.
Fair agreement.
Okay. Junior livestock, that's right, we talked about that. Okay, so we're looking at August, we can either do the 23rd in the afternoon,
Let me see.
because I don't plan to stick around that last week. I plan to be doing stuff. But then you guys can have- you guys can have meeting either way.
I have a meeting, so I have another client that had to move their meeting, their regular board meeting to that date.
We can just schedule it for the 30th. I may or may not be around.
She's still
And
deciding.
that look she gives me, let's just go with the 30th.
Okay,
More than likely I'll be here, okay?
8:30.
At 4 o'clock. We'll go back to 4. Today was a little different. Okay. And since we're gonna have a junior livestock fair at the next one, and that would be it. Will we have a draft of,
I want to ask Tanya.
Oh, I can bring the,
a draft?
well, if we need it,
We
I'll
don't
try.
need it, we don't need it.
Only if we'll try, what I'm gonna try to do between now and then is I'm trying to get it done, circulate it to.
That's fine, I remembered that,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Get it circulated to Commission, and if they have questions, they'll go on.
I guess my question, do you have any upcoming agreements on any of your?
That are gonna be expiring soon?
Yeah.
Or, no, not at the moment.
Just,
Exactly.
I wonder if we should look at the. Shelter, is it the shelter workshop? Maybe we all agreement.
the piece of property that we have
Not an
on.
agreement.
I don't even
Willow?
know.
Is that the name of the?
Is it D Street? Or E Street?
East Street. Yes.
East Street property,
Yeah.
okay, anything else?
I just didn't know if you had any things that you were trying. So a couple, like OHV is expiring, and we're in a development grant for a new track.
Mm.
So although we haven't heard yet if we've been funded
We're here on Monday.
Monday. We think, we will,
Okay,
it's not we're applying to a pool that doesn't have a lot of applicants to.
Oh,
okay.
It's separate than operations, right? It's
correct.
new track development. There isn't a lot of new tracks.
Oh, interesting.
So, but the state has financial problems you might have heard. So,
Yes, we have heard.
okay. Well, this was a very good meeting. If there's nothing else, it's 5:03 and I will adjourn this meeting and you drive safely.
all right, thank you very much.
Where are you headed?
President,
Oh.
for ladies.